Hello students, today in English we will learn lesson 2.4 The Fall of Troy part 1 which is based on the Trojan War. Introduction to the writer. Homer is a Greek poet honored with the title Father of European Poetry as he is presumed to be the author of the Iliad and the Odyssey, two epic poems that are the central works of ancient Greek literature. The Iliad is set during the Trojan War, the 10-year siege of the city of Troy by a coalition of Greek kingdoms. The stories provide an important insight into early human society. Homer wrote the Iliad, which is based on the city Troy, which is known as Ilium in Greek. It is the story of the Trojan War, which took place for 10 years and was fought over Helen of Troy. The Odyssey follows the Trojan War and describes the journey of Odysseus in his return to Greece, which took 10 years. Homer has written a metaphor for every person's journey through life. Characters of the story: Achilles, one of the great heroes of Greek mythology, extraordinarily strong, courageous and loyal, but he had one vulnerability, his Achilles heel. Helen, the face that launched 1,000 ships, was a queen of Sparta and wife of Menelaus. Hector, as the firstborn son of King Priam, he was a Trojan prince and the greatest fighter for Troy in the Trojan War. Paris, the youngest son of King Priam of Troy, he eloped with Helen, queen of Sparta, thus causing the events that led to the Trojan War. Odysseus, a legendary hero in Greek mythology and king of the island of Ithaca. Agamemnon, the king of Mycenae, the largest kingdom of legendary Greece. He is a courageous leader of the Greeks in the Trojan War. Menelaus, a king of Mycenaean Sparta, the husband of Helen of Troy and a central figure in the Trojan War. Sinon, a Greek warrior who persuaded the Trojans that the horse was an offering to Athena, goddess of war, that would make Troy impregnable. Priam, the last king of Troy, a ruler who witnessed the destruction of a city in the Trojan War. Laocoon, the priest of Apollo, who warned the Trojans to beware of Greeks bearing gifts when they wanted to accept the Trojan horse. Summary of the passage. The dispute between Troy and the Greek city-states, according to Homer, began when Paris, son of Troy's king Priam, eloped with Helen to Troy as a reward from the goddess Aphrodite. Helen's husband Menelaus was furious when he found out that his wife had been taken across the Mediterranean. Menelaus enlisted his brother Agamemnon, who gathered together all the other Greek kings and proposed an invasion of Troy to right this wrong. According to Homer, the expedition set out with 100,000 men and over 1,100 ships. Once the army arrived outside the walls of Troy, Odysseus and Menelaus demanded Helen's surrender. Paris refused to give her up, and the Greeks swore to tear down Troy's walls. The Trojans, having a significantly inferior number of men, refused to fight the Greeks out in the open and largely stayed inside the walls of Troy. After a long siege in the 10th and final year of the war, the Trojans fought the Greeks several times, and personal battles between several of the story's heroes took place. Reading and explanation. The Fall of Troy Part 1. Epics are long poems that relate the deeds, means achievements, or efforts of a great national hero or a great national war. They often tell of a nation's early history. They may be composed and sung or recited for many years before they are actually written down. The two famous Sanskrit epics are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and the two great epics of European literature written in ancient Greek are the Iliad and the Odyssey. Just as in Indian literature we go back to stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, so in the literature of Western countries they go back to the Iliad and the Odyssey. Just as children all over India know the names of stories of Ram and Sita, Yudhishthira and Arjuna and Draupadi, so children in Western countries know the names of Hector and Odysseus and Achilles and Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the world, because of whom the Greeks and Trojans fought for 10 long years. Nobody knows for certain who the author of these early epics is. It is thought that they arose, meaning emerged, and developed with the nation itself, and were handed down from singer to singer, meaning passed from one singer to the other, till perhaps one great poet gave them their final form, which means that one great poet finally completed the epic. It is believed that the Iliad and the Odyssey were composed and recited by a blind poet named Homer, who lived about 900 BCE and who wandered from one Greek city or village to another, singing his poems to all who would receive him in their homes and give him hospitality. This wandering singer has been honored through the ages not only in Greece but in all Europe as the father of European poetry. The Iliad is the story of Ilium or Troy, a rich trading city in Asia Minor near the narrow sea that leads from the Aegean to the Black Sea. Trading here means the process of buying or selling or exchanging goods. Asia Minor is Anatolia, which is modern day Turkey. Aegean Sea is an elongated bay of the Mediterranean Sea. It was well situated both for commerce and agriculture. In front of the city was a sea over which sailed the ships of Troy, carrying goods and grain. At the back rose the high peak of Mount Ida, that is the mountain in northwest Turkey, from which flowed many rivers and streams. The valleys among the hills were well watered and fertile, with corn growing in fertile fields and cattle feeding on the rich grass of the meadows, meaning a piece of grassland, while sheep fed on the slopes of the hills. Round their city, the Trojans had built a strong wall so that no enemy should attack them from the sea. The wall was so broad that people could stand and sit and walk on it. The great gates stood open, and people could go to the seashore outside and come in as they pleased, that is, whenever they wished. But in time of war, the gates would be closed, and then the city was like a strong fortress, meaning a military stronghold, quite safe from all attack, protected by the walls surrounding it, as well as by the hills behind.